All right. Welcome, everyone. Let's just take a quick moment, run down the line. If you can just introduce yourself and a quick beat about what you do.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Deepika Cattry. I'm an associate director at Bristol Squibb, focusing on HCP marketing all the way from strategy to digital. Really nice to be here. Thank you. And I have a pretty unique background. I'm actually a researcher by training. I worked on phase 1 to phase 3 clinical trials at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, which led to the approval of several drugs that all of you are aware of, probably Opdivo, Yervoy, Keytruda. And then once I went over to BMS, I pivoted and did a lot of R&D, analytics, global commercial strategy, and now in the US marketing team. So really nice to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Martin. I'm Associate Director of HCP Marketing, focused on digital at argenx, so all non-personal promotion. I actually came from the agency side, so shout out for all the agency people in the crowd. This is my first year as a client, what you guys call a client, or on the pharma side. And yeah, happy to be here.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm going to borrow a framework I saw on LinkedIn on how you introduce yourself. So the framework has 3 steps. We'll see it work. Step 1 is to tell the problem or the issues you want to solve. The second step is the solution you offer. The third step is drop the social proof for your solution. So here's how I'm gonna go. Is the problem 1 out of 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. But the treating physicians and urologists, they're taught in medical school to put patients into groups based on their disease stage. But we all know each patient is unique, is differently, so they demand really more personalized treatment approach. The solution is we actually in Myriad, we offer a full suite of genetic testing. So we do comprehensive genetic profiling for the patient to help the treating physicians take more personalized treatment approach and guiding the therapy selections. So the social proof is Myriad Genetics has been in this forefront of precision medicine for over 30 years. In 1994, we discovered the BRCA gene 1 mutation. 1995, we discovered the BRCA gene 2, which forever changed how cancer should be managed. In early 2000, when the actress Angelina Jolie took genetic testing, then undertook double mastectomy surgery, and she took a test for Myriad. So my job is really to empower physicians and patients know the utility of genetic testing when they hopefully they send the patient to the most optimized treatment path.
Yeah, wow. And I think Sunny is going to charge all of you $5 for that LinkedIn lesson. So there's a Cash App, Venmo, something like that. All right. Well, let's start by framing today's discussion. I'd like to know, what does Omnichannel look like at each of your respective companies? What's the overall strategy, and where's your maturity at in developing that capability? And if you can kick us off, Deepika, that'd be great.
Sure. So I believe every company has a little bit of a similar framework. For us, what we think about is you have professional, payer, and then consumer. Because a lot of the specialty products, you really would love access to it, but if you don't have access, you're not going to get it. And then also then your patients are going to have to look somewhere else. So as we think of that's like a multi-pronged approach. Also, another factor of our North Star is where in the life cycle of a drug is your product? Is it a launch brand? Because the way you're going to target and do market shaping is very different than if you have a drug that is going to be an established brand versus, or even a growth brand. So I think those are key factors to consider when you're looking at your omni-channel. And then of course, that's how you're going to allocate your funds accordingly. And then other factors you need to consider are looking at your competitive intelligence. How do you really differentiate yourself? And then how do you develop stickiness with those different channels? And I will discuss that I still use a lot of print. I know that might be controversial, but that's something I could happily get into.
Yeah. So at argenx, I would say Omnichannel is kind of the center of all of our digital or non-personal promotion. We look at Omnichannel as the right message to the right people at the right time. And I think we figured out who the right people are. We figured out who the right message is or what the right message is supposed to be. And then the right time is the one thing that we're working on right now. There's a lot of data delays overall. You can't really action upon things, whether that's your rep or your non-personal promotion, to make sure that the right message does get to the right HCP at the right time. So that is the one hurdle we are focused on right now.
All right. I coming from a $800 million mid-sized biotech company. I personally lead the marketing for a $100 million business unit. So my boss, and he's the GM for the business unit, he has been in the sales in pharma for 30 years. He would say, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I'm a pretty simple person. If you tell me omni-channel, he doesn't get it. So when I try to really explain to him, he would say, okay, it sounds like air coverage. Is you make the sales consultant's job easier. So I would say that's how we do in terms of omni-channel. Just give you a few numbers for you to think about it, or even your agency partners, vendors, think about this. A typical cancer doctor see 30 patients a day, and each cancer consultation is less than 30 minutes. So for the prostate cancer patients, it takes about 5 weeks from cancer diagnosis to making a treatment decisions. I mean, all these numbers, that means why we do omni-channel marketing is we want to ensure is a physician or patients get the information they need, or get the information in front of the physician so the rep go in to see the physician. Hopefully the physician is already educated, then ready to take action.
And I love where you ended there and talking about getting the information in front of the physician, because what I've heard in talking to a lot of you, including at cocktails last night, is that one of the biggest challenges is that physicians are so overburdened with information, and inevitably your own marketing contributes to that saturation. So how do you stand out, and how do you meet these physicians at a time when their content consumption habits are changing?
Yeah, so I think physicians are like us. Like, think about it. Are you really want to get hounded by someone in the hallway and then get an email from that same person and then also follow up with another phone call? That's a lot. And that's what physicians experience in the day to day. So in terms of how do you help them, I think it depends on who are you targeting. So right now in a lot of the rheumatology space I work in, you have physicians that are older, that are 50 plus, and they consume information typical, maybe like our parents or grandparents do. And then you have ones that are younger, that are 50, 40 and younger, where they're more tech savvy. They like to use like the latest information that's going on. So it goes back to a little bit of what Sunny was saying, the personalization that you really need, but then also kind of you really need a simple message. How can you have the simple message, as Emily was saying, but have the right demographic? So we a lot focus on segmentation. If you have the right HCP strategy, you need to then be able to segment the appropriate customers, but then you also need to make sure that same message is resonating, whether if it's personal at a conference, which a lot of physicians that are a little bit have been practicing for 20 years plus like that. So I was in Texas this week and I saw 40 doctors. They were excited. They had a lot more message impact that way with my rep and myself versus them getting a banner ad. Versus the younger physicians, they didn't have time to come to the conferences because they might be balancing being a new mom. So they get their information from reading posts online and looking at podcasts. So I really think we need to be very targeted and specific, but also understand our demographic when we're looking at the right content we're building for our omni channels.
Yeah, and just building off of that, actually, something that you kind of bring up is that your content, and especially in the digital space, should be more trigger based, right? So based on people's intent, based on what they're doing online, trigger the next best message to them because they already show that they are interested in that content and willing to take action. So we actually do some predictive modeling for us at argenx, who is close to an enrollment, for example. And we have identified like the key barriers, and like Deepika is saying, basically, the rep is a really strong indicator of intent of prescribing. If they contact a rep within a certain amount of time, they're more likely to prescribe. Your digital promotion, as much as I love it, cannot do it alone. So you need to make sure you're thinking about everything that's going on in your ecosystem to make sure they're pushing them down that journey and overall giving them the right message to do so.
Yeah, so I think the best way to stand out is really to give value. The access for our reps to see doctors is very hard. They might bring lunch to see a practice. They get 5 minutes in front of the physician. So what are you going to do in 5 minutes? I think the best way is multiple physicians have been telling us the best way industry partner can do for us is patient education material. So that's what we focus on in patient ed material to give to the physicians. Then secondly is grab their attention. Then we run tons of direct-to-patient advertising. So in this direct-to-patient advertising, we do ask the patients to give us their physician leads. When we get the physician leads, we email the physician saying, here, there's one patient come to our site asking for the testing. You know, the response rate from the physicians, very high. When they hear the patient is asking, they actually open the door to see the rep and open the door to get more information from us.
Got it. So I love the comprehensive approach that we're talking about here. So let's dig into, I think, the complicating factor, which Emily, you brought up at the start of timing. How do you identify that right window to insert your message, make sure it's the right message, and then build in the correct channel to deliver it?
Is that to me specifics?
Yeah, let's start with you. And then,
Okay. Yes, great question. Something that I think we all struggle with, right? So overall, I'm a big data nerd overall, and I like modeling and I like understanding and using predictive models to anticipate when the HCP is going to see that patient or how we can best prepare a rep to talk to the HCP at the right time. And so when we have a 30-day data lag, no offense to some of these partners, but when we have a 30-day data lag, you can't action upon those insights until later. So my goal really is to create a lot of automation. I know this came up yesterday too, is automating, putting the pipes together, making sure that your omnichannel is really speaking to each other and speaking across channels so that we can really optimize the approach that we're taking.
Yeah, and I can add to that. Sometimes as we wait for the quantitative data, we also have to figure out how can we bring in the qualitative data also. So like working across, sometimes we get very stuck in silos when we're working like only HCP strategy or digital strategy or patient strategy. You have to bring everyone to the table with saying, all right, what is your medical team saying? What are your field teams saying? But then also what are the patients saying and reading? So as sometimes as we wait for the quantitative data from any of our marketing campaigns, I've asked my agency partners, hey, like, can you like look to see what patients are saying on Facebook groups, on maybe some other channel, so I could kind of figure out how are we making sure that we are not losing them. We still have that empathy that we're connecting with them on. So I think there's ways to be creative as you're waiting for the quantitative data to come through.
Yeah, I think you really know your patient journey. Using example for our D2C part, is there really 5 weeks when a patient get a cancer diagnosis from their biopsy to making a treatment decisions. When we used to run paid search, we're targeting prostate cancer treatments, prostate cancer side effects, hormone therapies, you name it. We try everything. But we missed the 5 weeks window. Then we really start thinking what exactly when a patient will search. We actually change to the keywords called Gleason 3+3, Gleason 3+4. So those are the keywords truly is when a patient get a biopsy result, that's what it will search. I guess when you really know the journey, know what they are looking for, that's you find the right patient at the right stage. Then we'll follow up through with our ISRs, reach out, our field rep follow through, and our email campaign with that physician as well.
Can I add to what Sunny mentioned regarding the patient journey? So I think sometimes when we're on a brand, it goes back to if you're launching, your growth, or established. Once we do the strategy, once you're kind of saying, all right, great, let me just execute it without stopping to refine it. Someone who's worked with patients in a cancer hospital, the information you get when you're initially diagnosed and the feeling that you have and the questions you ask your physician are very different than when you relapse and you need a new medication and you're scared, whether if you have cancer, whether if you have an autoimmune disorder. So I think we also have to go back and saying, how are we building those questions and metrics to come back to make sure we're capturing how a patient or physician treats their patient at different life cycles of a treatment decision.
I love this because even as we're talking about marketing, the clear through line even extends from yesterday as we talk about being patient-centric and patient-first and considering their journey. And Emily, it looked like you had more to add there.
I was just going to say the one thing I think that is so important that you're kind of alluding to is, like, I'm sure we all do ATUs here. We all understand, the market research, the qualitative side. I think one other thing that I've tried to push for in digital is like the feedback loop and doing some more surveys, quizzes, understanding from an NPP perspective. Can I pull out the same insight? Can I understand the same perspective of the HCP? And then can I retarget them knowing their mindset and their insight alone, so that we really understand how we're moving the needle. If we think you're A and we want to get you to B, let's make sure we identify all the A's and get them eventually to the B with the right message.
I don't want to gloss over, though. You did mention print at the beginning.
Yes.
So how are you thinking about that channel? Very traditional channel. In your overall approach, where does that fit into this conversation?
Yeah, so I think everyone was a little surprised at dinner the other night saying, actually, a lot of my money goes to print. And I know we're in like 2025 where everything's online, it's quick steps of our hands. But you have to go back to look at the demographic of your patient. The ones that have autoimmune conditions, the ones I work with, are a lot older. So think about it. Like, I thought of my grandma. If she was not feeling well, she's not going to be like, let me go on my iPad to go figure out. First of all, she's going to be like, I don't know where my iPad is. And a lot of our physicians are also like, we want a print piece that we can give to our patient to have them understand what is their side effects when they leave my office. How do they get copay assistance once they leave? Because my nurse might not get to them or my PA might not get to them, but they could call this 1-800 number to figure out how to get the drug from their insurance if they're having issues. But also our biggest lever is our sales force. So when a sales force or a sales member goes in and visits a doctor, the doctor will be so quick in between visits. They might have 5 minutes. Are they really going to scan a QR code? Or are they going to say, oh, thanks for this piece. Oh, great. You have a new strategy. Oh, great. This is the safety information I need to know. They're going to take it, bring it back with them to their desk, and then they'll share it with their PAs or NPs, especially if they're teaching young fellows. So I do think that there is still a need for print based off of your demographic of your patient and the demographic of your physician. But then I have some younger physicians that are like, I don't have space in my office for demo kits or print materials. Send me a link online and I'll look at it later on my phone. So I do think it goes back to, I say print's still around. And I think it will probably stay around, especially as the demographic gets older with our boomers, et cetera, getting sicker or potentially having more serious chronic conditions.
Got it. But again, coming back to putting the customer first, whether it's the HCP or the patient, to determine what's the right channel solution delivering that.
Right. And then the message still needs to be the same. Whether you have digital, you have print, it all needs to be simple and concise.
Right. So let's go ditch to ditch then. We just talked about like one of the oldest forms of communication. Let's go to one of the most emergent. Where is AI fitting into your overall omnichannel approach? What are the practical applications that you all are finding as you dig into these new emerging capabilities? And Emily, we'll start with you and we'll wrap around.
Yeah, for sure. So we haven't quite uncracked the generative AI or creating creative content. I'm sure modular content is on everyone's mind, but I would say that's not quite AI yet overall. But we are leveraging. A
little bit about what modular content is.
Sure. Yeah. Modular content's like, imagine a banner ad. You have a background. You have 5 headlines. You have 5 CTAs. You have 5 different templates of it. It will then create 500 iterations of that content. And it will then target different iterations based on people's different intents to different times. So it's giving them more personalized approaches of content, but it's not necessarily written by AI yet, I guess, if that's what I'm saying. But we do, which I appreciate Cognitive bringing up, is that machine learning is one level deeper into AI. And we do leverage machine learning a lot because that's how we use our data, ingest all that data, then optimize based on it.
And Sunny, where are you finding applications?
Well, first, a quick little commercial. So yesterday was an exciting day at Myriad Genetics. We issued our press release. We signed exclusive partnership with Pathomic AI. We'll be able to become the first company to offer both molecular testing and AI diagnostic at the biopsy and post-treatment. So it's a very exciting day on AI application. Thank you. Well, secondly is, I would say for marketing, every single agency I've been working with today and every agency I hear pitching to me, all talking about they're using AI in some sort of way. So I just have yet to see the cost savings pass to me. So just really, I'm truly interested to see when I really see the cost savings in our media spending or in reducing the number of visits the rep need to visit the physicians to be able to close a deal. So again, that's how I'm really looking for the answer. Where's my savings?
That's really interesting. I'm curious, Emily, Deepika, do you have a similar experience when it comes to those savings?
So I hope my agencies don't get upset. But in terms of our company's very forward on using ChatGPT. And there's been times where I've been in a pickle and I need to get something through MLR real quick. I'll go into ChatGPT, I'll take some taglines, modify them, put them on my pieces, and just submit that through MLR. And that, I think, is an opportunity for some of our content creators. How are they going to be able to make sure they match to the needs of their clients and make sure that the clients just don't go ahead and start doing the work? But I think it goes back to what we were saying yesterday, is that you still need the empathy component. You can't just add an empathy component from a robot when you're looking at a physician or patient experience. So that's my experience. I've had it. And then what I have seen is from the physician side is doctors are trying to understand how to use ChatGPT or any kind of AI, and they're finding it more successful in their payer claims. So if a patient gets denied, rather than them writing something up, doing research, they'll go in and saying, please provide me a claim for X drug, and they'll write them something. So it helps with their office staff. So how can we provide tools for them on the payer side? That would be interesting to see in the future.
Okay, awesome. So I got one final question for y'all before we move into the audience Q&A. Let's talk a little bit about measurement. How are y'all thinking about all your individual channels, cross-channel attribution, or just making sense of, you've got these highly orchestrated campaigns that are bridging across all these touch points. What's the approach there? What are the KPIs that you care about?
You guys go first.
Sonny, do you want to take this one to start?
Sure. So actually, I was Stuart. That's your name, right? I actually like a lot of the measurement you put out there. So I guess today, if we just measure by cost per click, cost per conversion, sometimes people don't get it. I mean, the people outside the marketing. So I think more and more measurement we're looking into is how that tie into our growth drivers of the company. Really thinking about in every QBR reviews we have with our senior leadership team, what they're looking for. Think about they're looking for sales efficiency, right? Sales force efficiency. They're looking about reducing increasing the retention rate of the physicians and all those things. I think those are more and more the metrics we put in for our marketing activities. So tied with your growth drivers.
For us, we really look at time to conversion overall, right? Everyone wants that script and that enrollment, but can I do it in less touch points with less exposures, impressions, marketing spend with less time? How can I drive that efficiency overall? So we really do ladder it up, just looking at the journey of each new enroller, how many touch points did they have, and seeing if we can find some efficiencies in what channels are working and not working and pull those levers a little bit more.
Yeah, and we use the same ones for digital, but then more on the personal side. Sometimes it is harder to measure those. So you have your sales force looking at your IVA, so which is what they use to go detail. Sometimes those are accurate depending on how your sales rep is, and versus others, they might just be clicking it through based off of it's just a to-do. But I do think there's an opportunity for us to figure out how we can get better at analyzing peer-to-peer information for metrics, any kind of speaker bureaus that you have, and more on the personal side. So I think we've done a great job digitally, but how do you measure that into personal? I still think there's opportunity for improvement.
Yeah, I love that we bridge the full quantitative to qualitative spread. That's amazing. All right, what questions do we have from the crowd?
I will kick it off. We talked a lot about the qual and the quant data side of it. Like, when do you guys know that you have enough to go on when you're looking at the quantitative thing or the qualitative stuff, right? The more subjective data. How much do you rely on your gut versus the 80-20 rule to inform some of these omni-channel strategies?
I think from the marketing side, we rely heavily on our customers. So if you're hearing the same message from an MD, a PA, or MP, and then also that was really helpful. But then also looking at your competitive intelligence, like if you know that everyone's kind of heading in the same industry, going towards the same thing. I think that's important, but also goes back to, are doctors more driven on safety and efficacy? How are you going to measure those and then ladder that up, pull that through in your execution?
Yeah, from my side, we really do actually leverage a sales force quite a bit because they're the people on the ground getting the insights, meeting the HCPs where they are. So if we have some kind of ATU insight, we validate it with the field force. We're like, hey, is this right? Is this not right? What do you think could be changed? And where do we think we should go next, knowing this insight?
Yeah, so in the past, a lot of our physician activities really focused on the MDs, but now based on the meetings, conferences we go, we know there's a lot of a physician shortage, and more decisions are cascade to, we call them mid-level, really the PAs and APPs. So we're actively looking for ways to reach out to PAs and those people, knowing they are actually younger, they are more eager to learn, they're more eager to try new things.
Are there any particular tools that you guys are using to aid in getting that information from physicians, from social listening, from the field itself?
You mean
Outside of Excel, of course.
You mean the insights from what specific you're looking for?
Any tools that you're using to really get that type of data into your campaigns?
We have, as Emily was mentioning, like ATU. So basically, message recall. There's a way to understand how your message is resonating with your like with physicians, with your sales team, and competitors. So how do you develop that stickiness? So if you have the right messaging and elevates, that's something you could use with your strategy and overall like market insights that we're getting from our competitors. And then pretty much that's it from our side.
Yeah, I partner with over 30 different vendors. So my ecosystem is quite large, I would say, and it can come from multiple places. It's really dependent on the tactic and the message overall. Yeah, I don't have a specific one that I want to call out.
It's a little bit of art and a science.
Yeah.
And we do acquire database. I think Clarify is the database we're using today.
Tyler White, Spectrum Science. How important is it to understand what your competitors are doing in your omni-channel mix?
Maybe I can go. So at BMS, we're a great company, but there are also other bigger companies too that have a lot of spend. So I think when we're looking at our competitive intelligence lens, you're looking at, okay, what do they currently have in market? What's their pipeline? How are you positioning yourself? Are you going to be doing market shaping, or are you going to be coming in the middle, third to market, fourth to market? Based off that, you're going to determine how are you going to be able to allocate money for like TV ads versus maybe putting them in when you're looking at like paid search, banners, or other social channels. I think it just goes also back to access. Like we know competitive intelligence is important, but if you walk into a doctor's office and say, hey, Dr. Smith, I saw that ad on TV. Can I get that drug? And then the doctor will say, actually, per your insurance plan, you have to wait until 3 other treatments to get that drug. What's the point of pouring all your money in a company, in your consumer, if then you could focus on figuring out how do you have the payer messaging come across? So I think it's a little bit of the competitive intelligence, but also where your drug is positioned and from an access lens.
Actually, echo, and I would agree with that too. Like, I think access is a huge barrier that a lot of HCPs are like, oh, it's going to be too hard. There's REMS, whatever else. Like, there's a lot of barriers to get to the drug, and they want to get their patient on drug as fast as possible with the best efficacy possible. So whatever they need to do that, they just choose that decision overall.
Last question over here.
Hey guys, thank you for a great panel. Meredith Carbers, Shagdar, Sanofi Pharmaceuticals. My question is, we've talked, you guys obviously specialize, on the HCP side or maybe on the DTC side, where there is direct to consumer, direct to patient dollars or campaigns. How are you guys collaborating with those teams on a day-to-day basis to try to create that larger omnichannel experience across, both customer sets?
So I guess since I'm comparing to them, I'm in a smaller company, so I actually oversee marketing for both. I oversee the direct to consumer side and it's also direct to physician side. So it would be a lot easier for me to see the synergies between two parts and connect them together.
Yeah, for me, I only do HCP, but what I'm trying to do right now is bridge that gap and bridge that empathy gap, because we see in the ATU that HCPs are saying one thing and patients are saying another. And I'm sure everyone can resonate with that. They're never talking in the same conversation. But what I'm trying to do is pull through that patient content then that I found opportunities and place it in front of the HCPs or the NPs and PAs or anything like that, and find those patient affinity HCPs that you can customize that content delivered to them.
Same as Emily, I think the HCP journey needs to travel in parallel with the patient journey, and what you're hearing from patients needs to be resonated into your content. I'll give an example. I found out that in rheumatoid arthritis, after Caucasian women, the second most diagnosed is Latina women. And there's no content in Spanish anywhere, no representation in our materials on the website that tailors that demographic. And they feel comfortable going to physicians that look like them. So how do we take those little nuances and we go back and make sure, and that's how we create that personalized content that goes from consumer back to HCP.
So kind of one more thing to add. Today, patients are so educated and they spend so much time to research. I would say a lot of patients, they might know more in certain things than their doctors. Just know, don't underestimate how much your patients know.
All right. Well, thank you, Deepika, Emily, Sunny. Really appreciate the time and great panel.